started. So there, I just got the notification. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Hi, my name is Derek Taylor David. I'm one of the Phoenix champion leaders out of Phoenix, Arizona for Atlassian. I do get a little switched up, and I apologize that this meeting is a little bit earlier than we would normally do. We're working around the schedule of our presenter here today, Aditya Mani from over at Atlassian. He's a senior project manager. He gave this talk over at Team and was probably a little shortly scared after because I ran up to him and immediately begged him to give this exact same presentation at our user group here today and along with the other groups here joining us today too. So I thank you for that. I apologize for scaring you at least a little bit on that, only because being one of the champion leaders, I get to kind of pick and choose some of the things that I personally would want to see. And I love this one. I wanted everybody else to see it just because of the way that the integration work out together, which you're going to see here in the presentation. So thank you all for joining us today. Aditya, I know it's very late. It's 10:30 where you're at right now in Bangalore. So we do appreciate your time. Going to go ahead and give you presenter rights, which you already have. And then if there are any questions regarding the presentation, just please let me know in the chat. I will bring them up at the appropriate time. And if there is anything that's left out answered afterwards, I will make sure to get the entire transcript over to Aditya so we can go and get some answers back to you back and forth. Unfortunately, at this time, we need to let everybody know that we are doing a recording of this session. We'll be posted on our Phoenix Champions YouTube channel. A little bit difficult to say without enough caffeine. And if you have some issues with actually being recorded online, please let us know. We'll need you to drop off at this time. So Aditya, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Derek, for that wonderful introduction. And actually, no, you didn't scare me at all. I was really happy to meet you at Team. I think we had a wonderful conversation then and a series of really good conversations thereafter. And I'm really happy to also do this talk because Derek also comes across as a very, very passionate and knowledgeable person. And I just jumped at this opportunity also to we speak to the Phoenix community. So also thank you to everyone who's tuning in today. I know that it's probably in the middle of your workday as well. So I really appreciate that you're taking this time out to attend this talk, and I hope that you are able to get some value out of this as well. Just as a very quick reintroduction of myself, I think Derek already did a very good job. My name is Aditya Mani. I am a product manager with Atlassian. I work on some of the user experiences concerning a DevOps experience or an IT ops experience as well. And in today's discussion, we are going to just speak about how some of our various products tie in together very nicely. So with that, I'll just quickly kick off. So before we jump into the actual presentation that even Derek was referring to, I thought it would be good for us to just understand the basics first and maybe start from there. And let me try to just maybe just ensure that everyone's on the same plane of understanding first. So assume that you're part of an organization, and as part of this organization, you have to launch a new website, right? And you're super excited that this new website is probably going to get more customers, more revenue for your company as well. So for those of you from say the system administration part of things, or say maybe the operation side of things, you also know that to run any website you need servers. So basically maybe you came up with some sort of an architecture where this website is hosted on 3 different servers parallelly. And why 3 servers and not 1 server? Because you know that if one fails, you at least have 2 others to run your server. And the way you basically think about the entire traffic is that one customer will come, they will look at the website, which is, and this website is served by one of your servers. And slowly and steadily, as your website gains popularity, more number of people will start coming and visiting a website. And essentially what happens is that because of maybe a load balancing kind of protocol, what happens is that all of your traffic is split evenly across these 3 servers as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Now, imagine a scenario where something goes wrong with one particular server. Maybe some configuration went wrong or some sort of issue happened here. So what will immediately start happening is that if you don't really know about this, immediately 1/3 of your customer traffic will stop seeing the website and will stop being able to interact with your product. and that will basically result in a bunch of frustrated customers. It will mean probably some sort of revenue loss for your organization as well. And as always happens in a lot of organizations, when things go wrong, that's when a lot of blame game also begins. So, and all of this happened because you could not really catch the in time. And maybe the next question that we ask ourselves is, how could we have prevented this? So maybe if you just imagine some form of a fairy tale scenario where you had little, say maybe magnifying glasses or some sort of watchers looking at each of these servers, and essentially the job of these watchers would be to tell you that, hey, something has gone wrong, and immediately calling in a developer or somebody from your organization to come and fix that issue for you. And the moment they come and fix that issue gets resolved, and voila, the issue doesn't really impact your traffic anymore or your website anymore. And this is basically the world of monitoring and alerts. What this actually means is that if we just maybe now just lay this down the form of some sort of a conceptual diagram, you have, um, I think you'll be able to see my cursor here. You'll have the software or your hardware system here. You'll probably need some form of a monitoring or an observability tool, which is analogous to what we just spoke about, the watchers. You will need an alerting tool, and finally, the last end of the spectrum would be the on-call responder. So what actually happens here is, if say there is some sort of an issue within the first layer, which is your software or your hardware system, this will send an error to the monitoring or the observability tool, which in turn will send an event to the alerting tool, and that alerting tool will then create an alert, identify the person who is on call, and page them to say, hey, something seems broken, please come and help fix this. And some examples of these monitoring observability tools are Datadog, New Relic, Zabbix, Prometheus, and there are probably like 100, 200, such other examples. And in terms of the alerting tool, Atlassian currently has two products that help with this. One is Jira Service Management, and the other is Compass. And we'll dive a bit deeper into these products in this session. Now, one thing that is really helpful about having an alerting tool, because I'm sure a question that you would have is, hey, why do I need so many things in order to just maybe tell somebody that something is broken? Why can't I just make use of this monitoring observability tool to tell me what has gone wrong? Well, the answer to that is that a lot of organizations usually have a lot of different observability tools for different reasons. Maybe they have something for their web services, something for their database services, something for network, and so on and so forth. Essentially, what the alerting tool tries to do is it consolidates all of these, it basically integrates with all of these different monitoring tools and consolidates the alerts that come into your team. And it also creates that on-call roster, which is very, very important for your team to operate in. And that exactly is the value prop that an alerting tool brings to the table. So now, obviously, some of these things go without saying, that why are monitoring alerts actually important? Why can't I fix the alert in a reactive manner once I get them, or once something breaks, somebody can come and tell me, and I can come and fix the issue? Well, the answer to that is that I think a lot of you probably work in maybe slightly larger organizations that have to uphold and adhere to certain SLAs or um, um, uh, service level agreements. You have to have, say, maybe a 99% availability, sometimes 99.99% availabilities, and hence you want to try and ensure as few downtimes as possible. It gives you better performance, and obviously it keeps your customers also satisfied, because now your website doesn't keep breaking every now and then. So just to maybe put this in the context of what we call the software development lifecycle, where does it actually fit? So if you think about your software development lifecycle within your organization today, it basically follows this loop to a large extent. I'm sure that a lot of you would have different nuances here and different details to fill within this very, very simplistic looking flow as well. But essentially, any new feature, any organization works by starting to plan a feature, then they start to build the feature, they test it out, they deploy it, and then they finally maintain and operate it. And any issues that come out of here then funnel back into the planning stage to then be built and deployed. And essentially, where alerts and monitoring fall is in the maintain and the operate stage. So basically, just to sum up some of these fundamental topics, the what do the observability tools do? Firstly, they help you observe the performance and the uptime of your entire tech stack. And what do the alerting tools do? They help you answer two questions: what is wrong, and secondly, who should be informed. So the what is wrong comes from that diagram that I showed, where the error becomes an event, which then becomes an alert that sends through the entire chain something called a payload, which has a lot of different logs and metrics in it, which can help customers understand, sorry, which can help on-call responders understand what has gone wrong. And then through the on-call schedules that are created in these tools, we can see who should be informed. And we'll dive a bit deeper into these aspects now. So now, having understood this fundamental story, let's now look at a real world scenario. So now assume that we are part of this fictitious organization called VitaFleet. It's basically a healthcare and logistics organization which is dedicated to the global distribution of medical supplies, vaccines, and a bunch of other pharmaceutical equipment and products. Now, the VitaFleet team has just launched a new version of their customer inventory portal. This new portal is basically help them minimizing the excess inventory, just ensuring that nothing goes bad, and we are able to give to customers exactly what they need and when they need it. So all of these things like inventory prediction, just-in-time shipping, reduction of storage costs are some of the value props that come from having this new portal. Now, Vitafleet is a huge organization with hundreds of employees and maybe scores of teams. For this particular story, we will focus on two specific teams. One is the IT team and the other is the dev team. As we all know, the dev team is the team that is responsible for building and shipping new features. For example, the dev team is responsible for releasing this bright and shiny new customer inventory portal that we've been speaking about. And the IT team is responsible for general upkeep and maintenance of anything that the dev team launches. So they are also the people who are immediately alerted when something goes wrong, and then the IT team needs to now jump in to say, "Oh, let me try and fix this issue." And obviously, for something as important as an inventory portal for a massive multi-million dollar logistics company, healthcare logistics company, it is very important to ensure that things do not go wrong. And as I'm sure a lot of you who are in product development and working in some of these fine organizations will also know that a lot of planning has to happen just to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Because any issue that can happen can have real world consequences like revenue loss, customer dissatisfaction, but also specifically for something like a healthcare company, it could also mean maybe somebody's life or a hospital not getting their equipment on time. But as is the nature of software, and in all my years of working in software, no matter how much you plan things always go wrong. And in this particular case, something went wrong with the new portal. And what happened is that it started generating tens of alerts, maybe 20, 30, 40 alerts for the teams to start now looking into. Now, as we spoke about, the IT team is the one who is responsible for checking out any issue that happens. So let us now step into the shoes of this IT team individual. It is 2 a.m. on a Saturday. The on-call responder probably feels that nothing is going to go wrong because we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and just ensured that nothing will go wrong. So it's a Saturday. I can probably relax and maybe binge watch some show. But the moment these issues come, the on-call responder jumps into action, but now soon realizes that he's the only person who is awake and is working in the organization. So now at 2 a.m. on a Saturday evening or maybe early morning, they have to now look through all of these alerts, figure out what is wrong, and try to fix them as soon as possible. Because a downtime of even say 5 minutes or 10 minutes is going to result in a massive escalation and probably loss of trust for the customer. So what happens is that now the IT team tries to identify what has gone wrong with the alert. They try to sit down and figure out what can they actually do. And now the IT team identifies that this alert cannot be solved by them. It's probably gone beyond the protocol that they had been given. So the first thing that they try to do is that they try to figure out who the relevant team is and who they can page from the dev teams. They go through some of their logs, they go through some of their previous Slack messages, and figure out again that okay, maybe dev team alpha is now responsible for this, so let me reach out to them. But again, because it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday, it's not super easy to reach the dev team on Slack. Maybe they're not responding, maybe they're not looking at it. But maybe around say maybe 2:30 or so, that person comes online and is now able to start interacting with the IT team person. So after a lot of effort, when the right person is contacted, now there is yet another scramble to try and figure out what actually went wrong. So now the dev team person starts passing through all of their old logs, all of their old deployments, and trying to figure out what actually was deployed that has led to this issue. And now there's a huge back and forth going on Slack between the IT individual and the dev individual. And all of this is now coming to a head because now also the dev team member is realizing that they don't have access to the tool where the IT person is getting all these alerts. So now this IT person is playing messenger and trying to go back and forth between various portals just to ensure that the dev person has all the information that they need. So now, finally, after all the information has been received, the dev team person now looks at the issues, does some trial and error fixes, and finally uploads the fix. And now, after the fix has been uploaded and all the alerts have been doused, the fires have been doused, the IT on-call person now goes back to all the Slack channels to tell everyone that the alerts have been solved. Now, this was an extremely chaotic period that ensued. And as a lot of you can imagine and have also probably experienced in your organizations, I know I have experienced this several times in my previous organizations. Sometimes these issues get out of hand and they take hours to fix, and you then maybe just end up having spent an entire night just hunting for information or hunting for people, and then you realize that hey, maybe we should have a better process in place to start fixing these incidents in the future. So then now let's just do a very quick postmortem of what happened here, right? The sequence of events, if you think about from a very first principle point of view, is the team identified that something went wrong. After that, they needed to do four things: find the right people, find the right reasons for the issue, find the right resources to solve the issue, and update the right channels after the issue has been fixed and also during the fixing of the issue. And some of the problems that were present in the current setup that I just narrated, and I don't know how many of you felt a certain level of say your blood boiling or your blood pressure rising while I was narrating that incident, because that's probably hitting a bit too close to reality. Some a lot of time was wasted in maybe fixing something that was very simple to fix. We were not able to solve the issue very well because there was a lot of missing context that the dev team should have had at time t equal to 0 and not at time t equal to 5 hours. A lot of siloed conversations kept happening, because of which again that information exchange didn't happen very well. So now, to that effect, how does Atlassian try to solve this? Is I think just by trying to follow some very, very basic principles. Firstly, we want to try and maximize collaboration as much as possible between the DevOps, and IT teams, and just basically break all silos there. We want to try and reduce manual overheads as much as possible. And when I say manual overheads, I mean things like being like needing to copy paste data between different tools, needing to move data between tools, or even having to maybe slack somebody to say hey, can you please help me out with these things. And also just maybe just sharing data freely and without having to really think too much about it, right? And a lot of you might be using some combination of these products that which are namely Jira Service Management, Bitbucket, and Compass. But we believe that for such scenarios, a combination of these three products can do wonders for your organization. And now I'll just maybe speak about how these tools integrate well with each other. Um, so just as a a quick recap, Jira Service Management is primarily used by say IT teams and say maybe service management team, IT ops teams, SRE teams. A lot of dev teams also use Jira Service Management, but then maybe for this example, let's assume that development teams are using Compass today, a combination of Compass and Bitbucket. But obviously, in your organizations, every team is free to have their own combination of licenses. Let's just take a very quick, maybe slight segue to talk about what these, or maybe refresh ourselves about what these products actually are. Bitbucket is Atlassian's Git solution. It's a Git solution that works really well with Jira. And along with being a code repository, it's also a really, really good tool for things like commits, pipelines, deployments, and basically anything to do with CI/CD. Jira Service Management, as a lot of you might know, is Atlassian's ITSM tool. I'm sure a lot of you know about the service desk capabilities of Jira Service Management, and very recently, I think about say 1.5 years ago, or probably about 2 years ago, maybe somewhere in that ballpark, we also announced the launch of operations features in Jira Service Management, which includes things like alerts, on-call incidents, changes, etc. And that basically helped us also become a leader in IT operations capabilities. And finally, Compass. Compass is one of the newer entrants on the block. Compass essentially is Atlassian's IDP tool. IDP basically stands for Internal Developer Platform. A lot of you might have an in-house version of an IDP tool within your organizations. It's basically a product that helps you catalog your components, catalog your services, manage the health of each of your service proactively by looking at some objective scorecards and metrics. And also on the side, we've also launched the same alert and on-call capabilities that are present in Jira Service Management have also been brought into Compass, um, which basically means that this now helps teams independently manage any incoming alerts for their services. So imagine you're a dev team who's using Jira, Compass, and Bitbucket. If you are in that mindset and or philosophy where which is called you build it, you run it, you will also be having the capability to monitor the alerts for all the features that you launch. So now let's just come back to the main story. And this is where the meat of the presentation also lies. So now let's revisit that same story that we spoke about, which is the Vitafleet story, but this time using these integrated Atlassian products. So just to recap, Vitafleet is a healthcare logistics company. It's just launched a new inventory portal, and now something has gone wrong. And the person you see on your screen is the on-call responder in the IT team. He has access to Jira Service Management, and lo and behold, it is 2 a.m. again on a Saturday, and a ton of alerts have started coming in as well. So now this time though, the IT on-call responder is prepared. He's probably binge watching his favorite show somewhere, and he's probably not logged into his laptop, but he does have his phone with him. So now what happens is that because he has his phone with him, he instantly gets all the alert notifications on his phone, and those pages are super helpful for him to know that now something has gone wrong and that he now needs to jump into action. Through the mobile app, he's also able to acknowledge the alert directly from his phone. So basically saying that hey, I'm going to jump on it, and that brings an entirely new level of convenience for this on-call responder persona. So now they want to get a better look at what has actually gone wrong with their alert, and then they log into the web UI to now start looking at the alert. Now, automatically, this alert also displays the impacted service, which is a primary impacted service for this alert. In this particular case, if you look at the bottom right hand side, actually maybe I can bring my cursor there, he sees that there's something called a platform service, which is the impacted service. So now the IT on-call responder tries to think about what this service actually means, and he instantly realizes that this service actually has nothing to do with something that they own, and they instantly need to get that right team in. Which brings us to step one of our four-step framework, which was find the right people. So in this scenario, how does the IT on-call responder do that? They will look at that. They will just simply click on that platform service link there. It takes them to this page inside of Jira Service Management, which tells them very clearly the state of this service, and also it tells them who are the responders for this particular service. Basically, who are the owners for this. So they see that okay, it is this team called Juggernaut DevOps. So they simply go in and add that team in the responder field of the alert. And now what they've basically done is that they've assessed the alert. They know that it's not really their responsibility. So they've just lobbed it over the fence to the next team who is now responsible for this. So now this again is a very efficient way of doing it, because it's not like the first team is wiping their hands off the responsibility. They will still get notified about the alerts, but also because they've added the Juggernaut DevOps team as part of the responder field, what happens is that instantly the person who is on call for the dev team or the Juggernaut DevOps team now starts getting a page, and that page is again very similar. They get a mobile app notification saying that you've now been tagged in some alert, please come in and check it out. And instantly now these people jump into action. So in this case, when they start looking at the alert, I'm sorry, they also have the ability to acknowledge the alert. And as a side note, they also are getting these notifications on Slack. So now that we found the right people, wherein we've successfully completed step one of this four-step framework, now they need to go and find the right reasons. And just because I think we're keeping time in this entire process here, it probably took less than a minute from the first alert that went to the IT on-call responder to the second alert that went to the dev team. And now within that first minute itself, they're able to start figuring out what went wrong. And now, as we spoke about in this specific example, the dev team is sitting inside Compass. They have licenses to Compass. So now when they open the alert in Compass, they see that there is something called an activity timeline or a timeline history here, which is essentially the history of everything that has happened within that service, which includes things like deployments, pull requests, alerts, incidents, feature flags, etc. So now they just want to get a better view of what's happened in the history of the service. And when they click on that service, they get a much better expanded view of all the dependencies and all the integrations. And now because Compass also integrates with Sneak, which a lot of you might know as a DevSecOps tool, basically a tool that tells you that, hey, there are some vulnerabilities within your source code. Why don't you go in and fix them? So when they see that, hey, this vulnerability was detected about maybe a few hours ago, 12 hours ago or so in the system for this service, this is probably the reason why my alerts have started coming up. And just to um, sorry, now they know that this is why the alerts have come up. So now they know exactly why the alerts were getting caused, and they've completed step two of their four-step journey. Now that they've found the reason out, now they need to try and figure out how can they actually solve this. So finding the right resources becomes important here. What they actually do is Compass also has a very nice documentation feature where you can now go and create a bunch of different documents, create run books, create SOPs and protocols to basically tell all your responders what are some of the common things that can break in the service, and what can you actually do to solve those issues. So within this particular scenario, the developer on call is able to figure out that, hey, there's a documentation to upload a security patch for this service. So and that is something that they can use. And they're also using the scorecard feature of Compass. They're also able to figure out that, hey, yes, my SecOps scorecard seems to be a bit low, the score in that, which double confirms to me that the vulnerability was the issue for this. So now very quickly using the create issue button here, I'm just hovering on the screen. I hope you're able to see my cursor. They now start to, that just helps them create a new Jira story for themselves. So for any of you who've worked with software engineering teams or have been software engineers in your present or in your past, you know that creating a Jira story is just very good practice. And now just with one click, this developer is able to create a Jira story just to say that, hey, I have identified the issue. This is the amount of time I'm going to invest in it, and I will upload the security patch. Now, this security patch also goes via Bitbucket because Bitbucket is where they store their entire source code repo. So evidently they need to track all their work in Jira, but they manage all their branches and their commits inside Bitbucket. There's already an existing integration between Jira and Bitbucket, and using this, the developer is now very seamlessly able to link the two together, which is the Jira story and the Bitbucket branch. And using that, then they now go into deploying that commit as well. Now there is yet another integration between Bitbucket and Jira Service Management, which basically says that if you are running a high impact production system where you can't just deploy changes willy nilly and you need to also go through a certain process and protocol, every deployment needs a formal change ticket. So now if you think about it from the perspective of this developer, you're making them jump through several hoops to put out a fire, and that is absolutely not correct. You want to try and eliminate as many friction points as possible, and that is exactly what we're trying to do here. Using the deployment gating feature, what we are essentially doing is that the dev is now able to seamlessly create a change ticket. They're able to seamlessly link a deployment to it. They're also able to have someone review it because they've defined their workflows that way, and finally push their code to production all with a few clicks. And without wasting too much time, the developer has now pushed that fix to production. And because of that, they see now that, okay, the SecOps scorecard has come back to healthy again, which means that the alerts have also stopped, and that the fires have now been doused. So I just now want to take a step back and break down what just happened, because I will admit that the last 10 minutes or so were probably a bit too dense. And you're probably wanted that, hey, for me to do or for my team to do something as basic and fundamental as putting out a fire, fixing an issue, why do I need to jump through so many hoops? And that is the beauty of the system. You don't actually need to jump through so many hoops. So just to give you an example, what happens is that the moment the change approver goes and approves the change ticket, what happens is that Bitbucket will go and do this deployment automatically. And because the deployment happens automatically, the change ticket also gets closed on its own. We also see that the alerts get closed because now that the change has been pushed and the fix has been uploaded. This also means that because the JSM alerts have stopped, the Compass alerts have also stopped. The Compass health scorecard has come back to normal because now Sneak, your DevSecOps tool, is also now running in green. And because of all of because everybody is sitting in either JSM or in Compass, everybody gets notified about the alert closure immediately, and there is absolutely no delay in this entire end-to-end process. And this actually is the power of using this integrated Atlassian platform, right? Even though you have several teams using several products across various maybe time zones and maybe different organizations within your larger company, using this power of automation and the interconnectedness, you're able to very seamlessly go from finding the right people to finding the right reasons to finding the resources, updating the right channels, all being done very, very quickly. And in this new version of this Vitafleet story, uh, we have been able to complete this entire loop probably within a matter of minutes, and not having to wait for hours or sometimes even days. Because I have been in situations where sometimes incidents take a long time to get solved simply because there is some lack of information or a lack of collaboration. But this is also a time to realize that, or maybe just to try and understand that there is a little amount of one time effort needed to try and ensure that all these products work beautifully together. And that is probably the role that the engineering manager plays in this case. What they've done really well is they went and set up a very robust on-call schedule for both the IT teams and the dev teams equally. And this is again, maybe just a one-time thing that they do or a once a month thing that they do. They are also able to go and set up the scorecards to display health of the services very well, which means that these, because these scorecards are collating information and metrics from different tools, this also becomes just a one-time setup. They've ensured that all the documentation that was required for understanding issues on the service and fixing issues on the service was also updated correctly. And finally, they also went and wrote some very, very basic automation rules just to try and ensure that that entire end-to-end story flowed together very nicely and smoothly. And all of this basically meant that they went from having fragmented tools, siloed processes, and scattered information to basically one platform where collaboration is very high, information is readily available, and it all boils down to having lower MTTAs and lower MTTRs. MTTA, as a lot of you might know, stands for mean time to acknowledge, and MTTR stands for mean time to resolution for your alerts. And that is essentially the power of having the Atlassian platform. In this story, we showed you a scenario where the dev team was operating primarily in Bitbucket and Compass, because this dev team was probably more dev focused and needed access to alert on call tools in order to keep their services up and running. And that works if you are a small or maybe a more nascent team. But for teams that probably want a bit more maturity and probably has a growing need as well, dev teams can also use Jira Service Management for exactly the same set of alert on-call needs, and probably a few more things. The flexibility and the decision completely lies with the customers. But essentially, the major takeaway from this little session is that no matter what combination of these products that you use, the Atlassian platform helps you unlock a lot of different efficiencies across the board. And this is part of the larger system of work initiative that you might have probably heard Atlassian speaking about, which is basically a shared set of foundations, a teamwork graph that underpins the entire work across dev and ops for better context sharing. So I do want to just maybe take a quick time check to see, because I also maybe wanted to speak about some new AI developments that we've built in Jira Service Management. But maybe Derek, can you tell me if we should stop here?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we got enough time to keep going. We did get one question in the chat, and I think right now is a good time for that. Uh, the question was, can we get deployment metrics over time to show improvement? I guess show scorecards over time. Can you elaborate a little bit on that part?
Yes, absolutely. That is very much possible. What I can also do is maybe after this session, I can just share some documentation with Derek, who can probably also pass it on to the community. It is very possible to look at those deployment metrics on a time scale basis as well, and track the progress of your of the service health over a period of time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. But yes, we can go and continue on. And group, if there is any additional questions, please let me know via the chat, and I will make time to go ahead and bring in here. Uh, Satya, Satya asked a question. Do you have a cheat sheet for setting up service library in Compass? Can you include that in the documentation we would send out afterwards?
Yes. There. I mean, I also want to maybe try and understand a bit more about the question. When you say cheat sheet, would it be possible for you to elaborate on that?
And
Or
I'll
if you
go
don't,
ahead and monitor that in the chat right now. Okay, so if you do want to continue on with the AI part, I believe we have about 15 minutes and we'll break in for questions here and I'll keep giving you time checks as we go.
sure. I'll probably need only 10 more minutes. I hope to do that quickly. But actually, sorry, on a side and funny note, usually when I caveat any session by saying, hey, I'll only take 10 minutes or 5 minutes, it ends up being much longer. So I hope that doesn't happen here.
No
Um,
worries, we should be good.
Um, right. So everything that you've seen till now was fairly manual in its nature. I mean, manual to a certain extent because there was also this power of automation, automation and the interconnectedness that the Atlassian product suite brings with it. But now, which is obviously the flavor of the season and probably has been for the last 1 year or so, AI is making a big splash across the entire industry and more, definitely in the IT ops industry as well, right? And that is exactly some of the things that I want to speak about with you, which we basically call as AI ops. AI ops is nothing but just this portmanteau of AI and IT ops. It basically automates IT ops processes using concepts like event correlation, anomaly detection, causality determination, a bunch of words that, to be honest, I don't think even I understand very well. But my takeaway from this entire thing of having worked with AI ops and a few customers is that it just helps eliminate a lot of manual overhead and manual processes. And essentially, the entire Atlassian approach for AI ops is we try to keep a human in the loop. It's not like we say, hey, here is an alert, the AI ops agent will instantly fix it for you. That is not the approach that we take. The approach that we try and take is when an alert comes in, we come and surface some recommendations or suggestions to the users to say, here is what we feel has gone wrong, and here is what we feel you can do to solve this. Why don't you, with your human wisdom and human expertise, come and tell us which of these actions you want to take? So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to eliminate the need of that manual overhead for you to go and hunt for information and basically follow that entire four-step process that we spoke about just a few minutes ago. The second fundamental principle that we try to work on is we try to work on trust, because trust and security and data compliance and data security is really big in the world of AI and something that a lot of organizations, including Atlassian, more so Atlassian, are actually thinking through. Your data serves to basically your data is used only for your tenant and for no one else. It's not like we train our models elsewhere and come and build a solution for you, or we train your our models on your data and go and give a solution to someone else. It is an extremely tenanted model that we work in. And the third principle is explainability, where we try and attribute sources and we try to explain why some of these suggestions were given in the first place. So I'm just going to quickly switch over to a different slide deck to talk about this. Um, yes, so right, so now let's assume this scenario again where you have a bunch of different alerts coming in. It's now probably that same scenario, right? You are on call and it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday, and suddenly all hell breaks loose and you get a lot of different alerts. And when you log into Jira Service Management to look at all the alerts, you realize that there are far too many alerts over here for me to make sense of immediately, and then you get overwhelmed with, hey, what do I do next? That is exactly where we have a feature called alert grouping. So if you look at this little screen and transition, when you click on the AI view, what Atlassian does, what Jira Service Management does really well for you is that using the information in all of the others, we try and group all the similar alerts together. So now you don't have to look at 200 different alerts. You only probably have to look at 8 different groups, and now this little list is more consumable for you and much better for you to now start figuring out what to do next. So obviously the first thing you will do is, okay, even if there are 8 alert groups, I can't work on all of them together. Let me now look at the one which has the most number of alerts and probably is the highest priority. So in this particular case, that first group is probably the candidate for me. So when I click on that alert group, I now have this consolidated view, which is basically pulling in information from all the 56 alerts and giving me one consolidated view of what has gone wrong, the priority of it when it was created, and a bunch of other information that is relevant to you as an on-call responder. Now we also have these tabs which basically help tell you, okay, if you want to look at more alerts or the individual alerts, you can do that as well from this view. Now, in this specific scenario, maybe the person who is looking at this issue doesn't have complete information to solve all of these alerts, and probably they realize that this has gone beyond the realm of, say, maybe a threshold. So let me create an incident from it because we need more hands on deck to try and solve this problem. So generally, to create an incident from an alert is also a manual task. And in this particular case, it becomes really simple because using the power of AI, we are now able to, just with one click, we are now able to auto populate the incident ticket for you, basically pulling in all the information from the underlying alerts. And just as I said, that we are bringing a human in the loop. So we bring this recommendation to the user to say, why don't you look at this and now tell us if you're okay with this. Once you do your review and you are convinced that this is good enough information, you will click on apply and boom, the incident gets created. So now when the incident gets created, um, um, uh, sorry, the person who is on call and everyone else also now immediately start working on it. Oops, sorry, I think something has gone wrong. uh, Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, sorry for that little technical issue. Um, so now what the person who's created the incident wants to do is now they want to try and see what they can do to solve this incident. So there's this very nice feature called find resources. So the moment they click on find resources, they're also able to now see all the linked issues and every other similar incident that happened within the organization. So, but now they feel that this should probably now go to an incident responder or to an incident manager. So now this is handed over to that incident manager. So now when the incident manager joins, this person has very little context around what has happened, right? Because the person who had created the incident in the first place probably spent a couple of hours thinking through and sifting through a lot of different logs and issues and troubleshooting guides. But now, if the incident manager has to come up to speed immediately, that is where is something called a suggestions panel that basically helps them get up to speed as soon as possible. And that find resources button that I was speaking about earlier, also now using AI helps generate a bunch of different similar incidents from the past and documentation, helpful documentation that can help them solve this incident. Now, in the world of AI, a lot of you might know there is also something called agents, which are basically little helpers that help you do specific tasks. In this specific case, using Rovo, and I'm assuming a lot of you might also know what Atlassian Rovo is. We have an out-of-the-box agent called the Ops Guide that will help you with everything to do with incident resolution. So in this particular case, what I'll do is I'll just maybe go and type something like show me the people who can help me with this incident because I probably don't know who those people are. And instantly the ops guide returns some names to me saying that these are the people who can help you out. So now what I will do next is, as all of you know, the best incident investigation always happens on a chat tool. In this case, let's just assume that tool is Slack. So what Ops Guide will do is that it will create a Slack channel. It will pull in all the people that it had recommended as people, helpful people who can help with this issue, and now those people will start investigating what went wrong. Ops Guide also posts a very helpful summary to say this is the history of everything that has happened in this troubleshooting exercise. And another big pain point that I have always faced in incident investigation in my experience is whenever a new person joins a Slack channel, there are already probably like a 500 or maybe 1,000 messages before they've joined. So now they need to get updated. So then they probably go and say something like, hey, can somebody please summarize the incident for me? So now instead of a human coming and typing out exactly what happened and summarizing the entire issue, using very basic slash commands inside the Slack app, um, the new joiner is now also able to just maybe say, okay, just help me summarize this. And the moment they click on that button, the Slack agent also gives a very nice summary of everything that has happened till now. So now just fast forwarding into the story, everyone has thought through the problem, they've figured out what the issue is, and they've also found the fix and they've applied the fix to great success. So now all of this needs to again go back into the ticket, because obviously, even though the investigation and the conversation happens inside of Slack, everyone knows that from an audit perspective and from a posterity perspective, it's important to take all of these conversations and put them into the JSM incident ticket. But because there are probably 2,000 messages here, how is it humanly possible to just summarize that and put it there? Here again, we have a little agent that helps us out, that using this slash JSM ops create timeline, what happens is that the Slack agent gives us suggestions of what all can be pasted back into the ticket. And again, because of the human in the loop philosophy, you as a human are now able to select what can go and what can't go. And once you make that selection and then you click on that button saying send to incident, you will see that everything has been pasted as a comment back into the incident ticket. And now you see that after the incident is solved, you also have a very good note of everything that happened. And the next time somebody comes to audit this incident, they will have access to all the information. Now, the final step in this entire incident investigation journey is creating something called a PIR, or a problem investigation report. A lot of organizations call it an RCA as well, a root cause analysis document. And at least in my experience, I've always hated creating these documents because it's taken a lot of time just to do proper documentation for any incidents. And documentation is always one of the big problems that a lot of teams face. So again, using the ops guide, we're able to bring a lot of convenience to this entire effort using some very basic prompts, English language prompts. We're able to create a post-incident report, which could have either like probably taken up to 7 days to create. Now that is taking less than a minute for me to create, and I can also create a Confluence page from it, which basically pastes the same text into a Confluence page, and is now created and done and dusted. And we can finally wash our hands off of this incident and move on with our lives. So this entire process, as you see, has eliminated several manual steps and basically helped the entire incident investigation team to focus on what matters, and that is to close the incident and solve issues. And that brings us to this very maybe neatly categorized flow of saying you detect an incident, you resolve an incident, and then you try to prevent an incident using PIRs. And there are several AI capabilities that help you along the way. So that is what I wanted to end this session with. And I just need to very quickly flash this final slide here. I'm obviously we'll try to answer your questions here, but this is my LinkedIn QR code as well. I'm more than happy to connect with you separately and answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I think I'll stop talking and maybe pass it over to Derek. And if there are any questions, please let me know.
That sounds great. Thank you very much for that, especially that last part of having those automatically generated at the end of an incident would actually be incredible, just because there's several on my own that I'm trying to think of that I would love to sit down and take the time and go through and write out, and having that timeline already documented, the in Slack where you can have somebody who's just being added to a channel and have it auto summarize the thousands of messages that had already happened at that point. Both of those would just be ridiculously helpful. Personally, I wish my organization was using Slack for that same reason, but that
Yeah.
in itself, I think, would be its great own presentation too, to expand on a little bit more about how those work, how you get those set up. That would be incredible too. So thank you for that part. Again, just things that I wish I could share out as many times as possible with other people who are just like, yes, this is exactly what this would help us so much. I think some of the questions we did get were, hey, I'm starting out on Compass. I'm a little concerned about like how I would go through that whole process. Other people, it looks like they're chiming in as well, saying, hey, is there any documentation that you have for how to go through that whole Compass setup? I know that I've got the people that I go to as content creators that have stuff on Compass. I did look on what used to be Atlassian University, but is now a support as well, but I don't see anything very much there. But do you have anything that you've created in terms of presentations or videos or anything like that specifically tied to, I am brand new to Compass, where do I start?
Yes, I will be able to maybe get some of this information and literature and maybe share that with you, Derek. I might not be able to do that immediately. I'll probably need a couple of days to just maybe curate everything and maybe pass it on to you. But I do believe, and now that I'm looking through the chat, I do believe a lot of these questions can be answered quite easily.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you very much for that part too. Um, I don't think that we have any additional remaining questions, but if there are any, I know that you've got your QR code and your LinkedIn address for there, but also if there is anybody on the call that has any additional questions and you're not getting this information now, please reach out to all of us at the Atlassian Champions group at Phoenix_AZ@AtlassianCommunity.com, and we will make sure to forward any questions or send any information back and forth. And like I said, we're going to have this video posted on our YouTube channel here, probably within about a day or so. And as soon as I can get it downloaded and then re-uploaded, we'll go through that whole process there. Yes, Satya, I will make sure to get that recording published out as a part of our notes. I'll make sure it gets sent out with a link as well too. But again, Aditya, thank you very much. We appreciate your time on this evening. It was incredibly helpful, and I'm so glad that you were able to take the time and give this presentation that I said at the beginning I absolutely loved and wanted to make sure to get it shared as much as possible. So we do appreciate your time. Thank you very much for that.
No worries. I'm just honored and very thankful that you gave me this opportunity, and thank you so much everyone for patiently listening as well. Um, I really hope that you got some value out of this, and I am more than happy to engage with you in the future also. So please don't be a stranger.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining here today, and we look forward to seeing you at one of our next presentations. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Aditya, thank you very much. We hope you get some good sleep.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Take care.